Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Sever, and I'm glad that you could join me again today. Today's a little different show than what we normally do, and for a couple of different reasons. This is the last show that I will be doing just exclusively for CCTV, hopefully. There's some other things coming with another network, and so I will be aired here in Salem, so you'll be able to still watch me here, but it will happen on a larger scale. This is a little different too, in that I'm going to be talking a little bit about censorship. There's some things that will change, you will notice in the coming shows as I start with the new network, because I'm not allowed to do any speaking about anything spiritual, religious in content. So in that respect, it's going to change as far as my freedom of speech. I tonight am going to be showing some nude paintings that I have painted or are in the process of painting. I've covered up the parts that can't be shown on television. It seems odd to me that we live in a society where people seem to be able to say whatever they want about whatever they want, do whatever they want, but yet there's some things that are really tight restrictions and you're not allowed to say and you're not allowed to do. And so this show is a little bit different tonight in that I'm going to be kind of addressing some of that, but I think that it's important that we keep everything kind of in perspective. So I'm going to start with a painting that I did here about 2 weeks ago. I finished it up, and I want to point out some of the parts of this painting that I think are important on a couple of them, and then we'll go to the one that I'm actually working on in my studio. You'll notice tonight my palette's a little different than what we normally do because it is just a free-for-all of color. As you can see, there's just about every color imaginable on there, and these are all paint colors that I'm working on right now on different paintings. So this actually, I was telling someone earlier, is really quite mild compared to what it looks like often. So this is the real world as a full-time artist, so that might give you a little insight. Now back to the painting we've got up here on the easel. This is a very large painting. It's 2 foot by 4 foot. I've painted this on birch wood, which is another option for the masonite or ply board that I talk about. I like the birch for a number of reasons, but it doesn't have a tendency to warp like the masonite does. What I'd like to point out are a couple of different things. I'd like to point out, first of all, this vase that's here and this doily that's across this little table. Tonight's episode is going to be talking about lights and darks, and without dark you can't have the light, and those are the things that make paintings realistic, make subject matter realistic, is having that right balance between the lights and the darks, and how to get to a highlight, how it is a very slow process of building and building and building of colors. Now, I'd like to explain just this vase here, how I went about doing this, just so that you might know and understand a little bit better the process. As you all know from been watching the show, we start with an undercoating and a base. And what I happened to have for that was I did the entire painting in this mixture of purples, some turquoises, some alizarin crimson, some phthalo blue, a lot of different colors that I just kind of threw all over the entire picture and blended it out. So there's real subtle color changes between some of the dark areas here in the background and some of the lighter ones. This area here was covered up with that purple originally. And if you look closely, you can still see some of those purples that are in this in this vase that were there from the original underpainting. That's important to remember, because as we do underpainting, we need to have some of those colors shine through in order for it to be realistic. Now, a vase sitting on a table like this is going to be picking up all of the colors from the surrounding areas. So it's important that you have this purple from the background in the vase itself. I took then, and as I started building layers, you can see where the window, where the light's coming in from the window here, I have some of the browns that are back there that might be an indication of a window frame that's in there. The browns are in here as well. Some of the yellows that are in here from the light coming in from the window are in here. They still are, it was still part of that undercoating that I put on initially. Then I started actually painting the vase itself. And I did that so that we would have some reflective light where it's picking up some of those lavenders and purples. This side here, picking up both the green from the stems that are in from the plants themselves, as well as these highlights of light that are coming in that would be hitting several different spots on this vase. The important thing when you start doing this is that it's that building upon building upon building. It's really, really easy to try to jump to this final stage, and you will never attain this final stage of realism if you don't take and do those layer upon layer upon layer, and each layer you put on, you maintain that undercoat, the underpainting that's on there before. That's the only way that you will ever attain this degree of realism. The other thing that I want to point out on this vase, if you notice these really bright highlight spots, those are one stroke of the brush, one stroke. The thing I see all the time when I have students painting, I'll use a dry brush on this. They'll have that white with a little bit of yellow mixture, and they'll keep doing this. They keep rubbing it, and what that does is they end up destroying the purity of that color that's on there. So whenever you're doing a final highlight like this, it's just a quick stroke with the brush, and that will give you the color pop and give you that candy that everybody wants in their paintings. And the only way, again, to attain that is just by that simple one stroke. Sometimes it's really easy to go, oh, that looks good, and you try to do one little thing again and you'll mess it up. So just be patient and trust that it's just a one stroke, and step back from it and you will see the difference there. The other thing on this painting I wanted to bring into to view is this lace that I covered this table with. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's some of this that is very detailed with the lacing. But on top of that, what I did was I put some big brush strokes, just following the lines that I had in the detail. So areas that are not showing a lot of detail, your eye will automatically assume that it's the detail that they're seeing on these other spots is here. So again, we're just trying to create the illusion for the eye. Now, if I took and actually did each of these little things where I've got it more blurred, what would happen is that you would have to change your colors a lot in order to give it the depth of field there. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to point out on this painting. One other thing really quickly is over here. I don't know how well you can see. There are probably, I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably close to a dozen color variations from this darkest of dark here to this lightest of light here. So, and in this you will see actually a lot of greens and some blues that are in this area. That is what makes this look realistic. It gives it that depth of field that we're wanting to achieve. And so I just wanted to point out a little bit on that painting. I want to pull up another one now that I've just completed here, actually day before yesterday. Got it up here on this back easel. And again, I've had to block out what everyone knows is a butt. I think it actually, by covering it up, probably brings more attention to it than if I didn't have it on there. But again, that censorship that we're talking about. This painting here is a beautiful painting. It's probably one of the most favorite paintings that I've done in a very long time. And the reason why is I really like the way the light strikes both the hair, her body, the way it glistens on the surface of the tub here and in the water. And we're talking about that light and dark and the underpainting and the layers that go on it in order to achieve the effects that you're looking for. And I'm going to go through this one really quickly. This painting, I started out with basically up here with green, kind of an emerald green, that this whole top half was painted with, was that emerald green. The bottom half was actually more in towards these mauve-ish colors that you're seeing here. I knew that I wanted to put a window that she's looking out. And so I wanted to give just the impression that maybe there was, this glass was a little bit fogged and smoked, but you could see the green from outside. And some of this you see in the background, your eye catches it and goes, okay, well, you don't have to know that that's a bush that's back there. Your eye's automatically going to assume that there's something out there. The other thing that, and as you see, as I built the layers up, there's still that green that's in there. I did not add any additional green to this painting other than that undercoat. And everything else has been layered on top of that in thin layers and thin glazings in order to gain the effect of the window the way it is as you see it. I want to talk about the form itself, and again, talking about the depth of the darks and the lights in order to create the effect. Now, to make this look as dramatic as what it does, I had to have a dark to begin with. Now, even up here in the lightest of light on her shoulder, this started out with a burnt sienna and a very brown tone. And then I started building, added in some yellow ochres, some blues, some greens, some lavenders, some purples into the shadowed area. And those are all in varying degrees, and in any one of those spots you can still see that burnt sienna undercoating that I first put on for when I blocked in her body. So always remember that undercoating and that underpainting is really important. It's the foundation on which everything is built. So make sure that is correct to begin with, and make sure as you build out the layers that you maintain that, because that's what's going to give the depth of field to make the figure or any subject that you're painting the depth of field and the 3 dimensions that we're all looking for. Down here on this water especially, I wanted to point out there's probably 8 or 9 colors and 8 or 9 layers of colors in order to produce this effect. It's really easy to try and make this speed up the process, make it go faster, and just put in some white across there. And if you did that, I guarantee you're not going to get the same effect. By doing, whenever I painted anything up here, I threw that color down here in these spots that were the window and where the reflection would be coming in. So remember, if you're doing reflections, anytime you do anything up here, the reflection needs to use the same colors. So I paint here, I paint here, I paint here, I paint here. So it's just, by doing that, it carries the continuity and flow of the painting, and it actually makes it a whole lot more realistic in the end. And that's what we're all trying to achieve, is that realism in the paintings. So that's one I just finished up, and now I'll show you the one that I'm currently working on. And this one is still wet. In fact, I'm hoping and praying when I take this piece of paper off here that I don't have a mess when I take it off. I wanted to point out on those other ones to show you, because this is in an early stage of the same process that I did on those other two female forms. But I wanted to point out a couple of things. I started out again with that burnt sienna, actually with a little bit of Prussian blue, even to make it even a little darker. Blocked her completely in, and then I started to add the layers. And a lot of people ask me, how do you, what colors do you mix to get flesh tone? Well, if you look, probably your best thing that you can use for your own representation is use your own skin. Look at it. Look at the different tones that are in there. I normally use a combination of burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. Now, that's going to give you a dark tone. In fact, I'll just do that really quick. So we'll find a clear spot somewhere on my palette here. We'll go right here. So that's burnt sienna. I'll bring in a little bit of the yellow ochre into that, a little touch of that alizarin crimson, which gives us a little more of those warmer tones, and then I'll bring in our titanium white. Now, I can see right there that that's way too light of a color, so we just add in a little bit of that burnt sienna, a little bit of the yellow ochre, and you just play with this until you get that flesh tone. And if you hold that up against my arm, it's a little darker than what the flesh tone is on my arm. And but that's a good way to begin the process. In fact, being I've got that on there, I'm just gonna throw it up here. We'll go up here, right up here on her arm. And that actually isn't too far off of the tone that I had on there originally. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind as you're doing flesh tones or anatomy, doing figures, is making sure that the anatomy is correct. If the anatomy is not correct, if you don't know where those shoulder blades are, how that vertebrae comes down, how it indents in here right above the hip bones, if those things, if you've got questions on them, there's lots and lots of resources online to where you can get some anatomy lessons to make sure that you're anatomically correct. I'll be honest with you, probably my biggest problem with figures is hands. I struggle with hands more than anything else, but it's one of those things that it's just a learning process, and you work it and practice it and practice it, and eventually you get it. So I'll actually go over here a little bit on this reflection that's in the mirror with that color. It probably would show a little better. And I've got a wet, all this on the canvas right now is wet, so it's probably a good time to put this on. It warms that reflection up a little bit. The other thing too that's important when you're doing any sort of reflective in mirrors, especially, it helps if you, in fact, I had somebody actually stand in front of a mirror so that I made sure that I had everything correct angle-wise and how it would be reflected back in. So, you know, it just is one of those things that in order for it to look right, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to, so that the eye looks at it and go, oh, okay, I know, that's her hand, that's the front of her hand that you're seeing in the reflection. So you just have to be really diligent, making sure that the placement is correct and the anatomy is correct. And if you do that, the eye will automatically pick up on it. Now, one thing, now that we've kind of talked about the flesh tones, and again, there's lots, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but there's so many different colors that you're going to have in skin tone. A lot of it is we pick up a lot of the reflective light from around us. So that's the reason why I've started in this little vase that's sitting here on the nightstand. And I'm going to, this will be a lot more emerald green with some really bright highlight pops where the light is coming in from this side and is going to be hitting it. That will be reflective in the mirror, but because of this light, there's going to be the green, which I've started to put in some of those green tones, deep green tones, on this side, in the shadowed side of her body, because it would be reflecting from that vase. So when you look at it, you go, green? Why would you put green on the skin? But actually, if you look at your own skin, there you'll see there's blues and there's greens that are part of your skin tone. Very, very subtle, but they are there. And those things too are important in giving the depth and the 3 dimension to the painting. Like I said, I blocked this in with that burnt sienna with a little bit of the cobalt blue, and then I started in with just the burnt sienna, which is that kind of right through there, and then I added a little bit of titanium white to it, so it lightened it up a little bit, along with yellow ochre. If I didn't use the yellow ochre, it would be more too tannish looking. It wouldn't be skin tone, which is what we're trying to accomplish here. So then I took and put in a lot more yellow ochres and started adding in yellow ochre with some titanium white. So that's where these light reflection or light highlights that are hitting her, how I created those. These are still probably 3 layers away from being to a final highlights. But again, you have to have those layers building and building in order for it to look correct. And each layer, if you could see, you can see the color variations that I've allowed to come through each layer. So just keep that in mind as you're painting, that you need to make sure that those things happen. So I hope that maybe was kind of helpful for you today. I know it's a little different than what I normally do with normally painting on a painting, but I wanted to kind of show you some of, like I did last week with that portrait of John Pounds. I wanted to show you kind of what goes on in my studio on a daily basis. And it might give you a little bit of information that might be able to apply to your own painting and your own projects. As every show, I always end with a little spiel at the end. Like I said, starting next week, I won't be able to say a lot of what I do as far as my how I feel religiously or spiritually or that personally in my life. So I'd like to leave you with a couple of things while I still have an opportunity. There was a professor that was giving a lecture on psychology, the stress of psychology. And he holds up a glass of water. And the audience was going, yeah, half full or half empty. He said, how much do you think it weighs? People responded, 2 ounces, 6 ounces. He said, it really doesn't matter how much it weighs. He said, I can hold this glass for a minute, easily, no problem. An hour, my arm's gonna start to be tired and maybe cramp up a little bit. I hold that thing for 6 hours, my arm's gonna become paralyzed. The whole object of that is that oftentimes, even though that glass of water, the water is good, it's life-giving. A lot of times in life, we take and hold on to something so long that it becomes a burden. It paralyzes us emotionally, physically. It manifests itself in every aspect of our life. And the longer you hold on to it, the more difficult that it becomes for you to carry. Let loose of those things, even though they may be good in some respects. Take them, glean from them, and then put them down, release them. Don't carry them, because the longer you carry them, the more it's going to impact you in a negative way. That being said, we all carry stuff. I carry stuff. I carry a lot on my shoulders at times. A lot of that is self-induced, and I think that's important for you to remember, as well as myself. I have to remind myself of it daily. Release those things that burden you. I saw a little picture of a big donkey with the collar down to a little plastic chair. Somebody had tied it to the leg of that chair. That donkey was, in his mind, was attached, couldn't move because he was attached to that chair. Don't let those little things in life stress you out and attack you and destroy who you are. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me here on Art and Soul. I appreciate your input and your emails. I really enjoy reading them. CJ, I know it doesn't matter to you, but I still love you. But I still love you.